Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be taking a look at LT Foods.
LT Foods.
Yeah, so you might know them better for their actual products.
Right.
They are a really big name in the world of basmati rice and specialty rice and all that.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be breaking down their second quarter results for their fiscal year 2025.
Right.
I've got a stack of reports and presentations right here.
Yeah.
It looks like they're not content with just being the rice giant.
No.
They're making some moves to branch out.
Absolutely. They were really diversifying.
Yeah.
It's not just about, staying ahead of the rice market or anything like that.
Right.
It's about really becoming a major player, I think, in the wider food world.
So before we get into the really specific stuff,
Sure.
can you give us just like an overview
Yeah.
of how LT Foods is doing financially overall?
Well, if you look at the first half of the fiscal year, 2025,
Okay.
they actually achieved a 12% revenue growth
Okay.
compared to the year before. So that's pretty significant, in this current economic climate.
Yeah.
Shows they're resilient. They're continuing to attract customers.
Okay, so 12% is a pretty good number.
Yeah.
I am noticing here that their second quarter growth
Right.
was a bit slower.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like it was around like 7%.
Yeah.
So what would be the reason for that little dip?
It's likely combination of things.
Okay.
They've been really heavily investing in their brands,
Okay.
which is a good long-term strategy.
Yeah.
But it can obviously impact short-term profits.
Right.
They're also, expanding their distribution network,
Mm-hmm.
trying to reach more people.
Yeah.
That takes a little time to show the returns.
Makes sense.
And then, of course, the global economy is a bit shaky right now.
Right.
There's some, shifts in consumer spending playing a role there as well.
External factors always
Yeah.
make a little bit of a dent.
Absolutely.
Okay, so, but what about profitability?
Right.
Are they managing to make money even with these investments
Yeah.
and this kind of tricky economic situation?
Well, one thing that really jumped out to me
Okay.
was their gross profit margin,
Okay.
particularly in Q2,
Right.
where it hit 34.1%.
Wow.
Now, this means
Okay.
that for every dollar of sales,
Mm-hmm.
they're keeping a significant amount
Oh,
after accounting for, the direct costs of producing their goods.
Right.
So this is a sign that they are managing their sourcing and production really well.
That's a good sign.
It is.
But I also see that their EBITDA margin decreased slightly.
Yeah.
Can you explain what EBITDA is?
Right.
And why that decrease kind of matters?
Of course.
Yeah.
EBITDA stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation,
Right.
and amortization.
Right.
So basically, it's a way to measure a company's core operating profitability. And the slight decrease that they had, was likely due to higher freight costs,
Okay.
which is, a problem that many companies are facing
Yeah.
with the global supply chains.
Okay.
But overall, their profitability remains strong.
So higher freight costs always a headache these days.
Yeah, it's a common one.
Okay, so it seems like you're getting a little bit of a mixed picture here.
Uh-huh.
Revenue growth is still happening,
Yeah.
but a little bit slower.
Yeah.
Profitability is healthy,
Uh-huh.
but with some pressure points.
Right.
Where should we dive in next
Well,
to really understand what's driving these trends?
I think we got to look closer at their different business segments.
Okay.
While they are known for their basmati rice,
Right.
they're also, branching out in some really exciting ways.
Yeah.
So there's the organic food and ingredients segment.
Okay.
And then there's also the ready to heat and ready to cook,
Right.
which we'll call RTH, RTC,
Yeah.
which is catering to that convenience food market.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by those.
Yeah?
I'm really intrigued by those new segments. It
Yeah.
seems like they're, strategically moving beyond just being the rice people.
Right.
So how much are these new areas contributing
Yeah.
to their overall business?
Well, in the first half of fiscal year 25,
Right.
the organic food and ingredients segment grew by 41%.
Wow.
And then RTH, RTC also saw an 8% increase.
Okay.
So these are strong indicators that the diversification strategy is starting to really bear fruit.
Wow, 41% is a huge jump.
It is.
Those numbers suggest that LT Foods is really tapping into some consumer trends.
Yeah.
It's no longer just about the basic staples.
Right.
People are really looking for those organic options
Absolutely.
and convenient meals.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fascinating that they're not just throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Right.
They're making calculated moves.
Yeah, they're making calculated moves.
Like they set up a manufacturing facility in Uganda
Right.
specifically for organic products,
Exactly.
which is a really smart way to diversify their sourcing.
Yeah.
and reduce their dependence on any one region.
Absolutely.
That's a good way to manage risk. So what about that RTH/RTC segment?
Yeah.
You know, convenience food is booming,
It is.
but it's also a pretty crowded market.
Very much so.
So how is LT Foods differentiating itself?
Well, they're actually seeing phenomenal growth in this segment.
Okay.
147% year-on-year increase.
Wow.
So it seems they're hitting the right notes
Okay.
with those consumers who are looking for, tasty and convenient meals.
Right.
And it really aligns with their ambition to become a global food company, not just a rice specialist.
147%.
Yeah.
Okay. I admit that number caught me a little off guard. It seems like their expansion beyond rice
Yeah.
is really gaining some serious momentum.
Absolutely. It's a story worth following.
So we've talked about financials.
Yes.
We peeked into their expanding product portfolio. It's clear that they're aiming for something much bigger than just rice.
Yeah.
Where should we head next in
Well,
our deep dive?
I think it's time to go global.
Okay.
They're in over 80 countries, but they're not stopping there.
Okay.
So let's explore those international ambitions and how they're approaching, different markets around the world.
I'm ready.
Let's do it. Yeah, over 80 countries.
Wow.
But it's not just about being everywhere, right?
Right.
It's got to be strategic expansion.
Yeah.
And, they've set a goal, actually, to reach a 14 to 15% EBITDA margin.
Okay.
Remember, that's the measure of core operating profitability.
I do.
Over the next 4 years.
Right.
And global expansion plays a big role in that.
So they're not just, scattering seeds to the wind. They're really careful. Yeah. So they're getting closer to their customers. They're streamlining their operations.
Exactly.
Smart.
Yeah.
So how does their product mix fit into this global picture?
Right.
Are they taking the same approach everywhere?
No.
Or are they adapting to, different tastes and trends?
It's all about tailoring their offerings to specific markets.
Okay.
So, for example, in North America,
Yeah.
their Royal brand is huge in the basmati segment.
Okay.
It's got over 50% of the market share there.
Wow.
And get this,
Okay.
their Golden Star brand has actually become the #1 jasmine rice brand in North America.
Wow.
So that's a real achievement.
It is.
It shows that they can really compete and win
Right.
beyond, just their traditional stronghold.
So they're not just playing in the North American market.
Yeah,
They're really leading the charge in some of these categories.
absolutely.
So what about other regions? Are they seeing similar success
Well,
elsewhere in the world?
they're making strategic inroads in Europe.
Okay.
Obviously, that UK facility is a big part of that.
Right.
It's establishing a strong presence there.
Yeah.
And we can't forget about the Middle East.
Yeah.
A region with a deep love of basmati.
Yeah.
They've actually partnered with a distributor in Saudi Arabia,
Okay.
which is the world's largest basmati market.
Wow.
And their Dawat brand has actually climbed to the #2 spot
Wow.
among premium brands in the UAE.
Okay, so they're not just expanding their geographical reach.
Mm-hmm.
They're really gaining traction in these new markets.
Yeah.
It's like they're playing a multi-level game here,
Mm-hmm.
conquering new territory
Yeah,
while strengthening their existing stronghold.
absolutely. It's a dynamic approach.
It is.
And it seems to be working.
Yeah.
They're growing on multiple fronts.
Right.
Which shows a deep understanding, I think, of that global food landscape
Yeah.
and a real knack for adapting to different consumer preferences.
Speaking of understanding the landscape, I noticed something in their investor presentation,
Okay.
and I thought it was really interesting. They talk about an inorganic growth strategy.
Right.
So what exactly does that mean?
Yeah.
And how does it fit into their overall plan?
So inorganic growth basically means expanding through mergers and acquisitions rather than just growing from within.
Okay.
So basically they're looking to buy other companies
Gotcha.
that can help them achieve their goals faster.
Yeah.
And LT Foods actually has a history of making some really smart acquisitions.
Okay, so they're not just growing organically. They're also, bringing in new branches
Right.
to graft onto this existing tree.
Exactly.
So what are some examples
Yeah.
of these strategic acquisitions that they've made?
Well, back in 2022,
Okay.
they acquired a majority stake in Golden Star Trading, Inc.,
Okay.
which really boosted their position in that jasmine rice market,
Oh.
especially in North America.
Gotcha.
Back in 2016,
Mm-hmm.
they acquired the 817 Elephant brand,
Okay.
which helped them expand their reach in Canada. And then more recently, in 2021,
Yeah.
they acquired a 30% stake in a Dutch organic specialty food company called Leave.nu.
Hold on. A Dutch company.
Yeah.
That seems like a pretty big leap from their traditional focus on rice.
It is.
So what's the strategy behind that move?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it shows how they're really thinking ahead.
Okay.
So Leave.new has a strong distribution network in the European Union, which is a market that LT Foods is really keen to tap into.
Gotcha.
Plus, it aligns with their growing focus on organic products.
Right.
So you see, this acquisition wasn't just about rice.
Right.
It was about gaining access to new markets and expanding their expertise in a growing sector.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
It seems like every move they make has, these multiple layers of strategy behind it.
Yeah.
Like a game of chess.
Exactly.
Always thinking several moves ahead.
Absolutely. And with these acquisitions, they're not just buying companies, they're acquiring knowledge, distribution channels, expertise.
Yeah.
It's a way to really fast track their growth and become, a more diversified and resilient player in that global food market.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
From their strong financials, their expanding product portfolio, ambitious global strategy, savvy acquisitions. But before we move on, there's one more piece of the puzzle that I think we need to kind of explore here.
Okay.
Their commitment to sustainability and digital transformation.
Yeah.
It's not just about profits with LT Foods.
Right.
It seems like they're also aiming to be a really responsible and forward-thinking company.
Absolutely.
So what can you tell us about their efforts in these areas?
Well, you're right. It's not just business as usual.
Yeah.
They're really taking a holistic approach.
Okay.
They're considering their impact on the environment and society. They're actually weaving what's known as ESG principles, environmental, social, and governance. Okay.
Into their operations.
So what does that look like?
So this means that they're looking at things like sustainable sourcing, reducing their environmental footprint, promoting ethical practices throughout their entire supply chain.
So they're really aiming to do well by doing good.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
But what about the digital transformation part? What does that look like in practice for a company that's traditionally been focused on, rice?
It's about really embracing technology to become more efficient, more agile, and more connected.
Okay.
So they're investing in smart technologies.
Okay.
They're using data analytics to make better decisions and leveraging digital platforms to really connect with consumers and suppliers more effectively.
So they're not just, jumping on the digital bandwagon. They're really integrating it into the core of their business.
Yeah, it shows they're not afraid to adapt and embrace new ways of doing things.
They're really looking to the future, and it seems like they're building a company that's not only profitable, but also sustainable and responsible.
Yeah, it's inspiring to see a company like LT Foods taking these steps.
Yeah.
It makes you think about, what other businesses could learn from their approach.
Absolutely.
But before we get carried away with inspiration,
sure,
I'd love to get your overall take on LT Foods.
Yeah.
Based on everything that we've explored today.
Right.
Where do you see them heading?
Well,
are they on track to achieve those ambitious goals?
I think they're in a remarkably strong position.
Okay.
Their core business is solid.
Yeah.
They're diversifying strategically, expanding globally.
Yeah.
With a clear vision. And, plus their commitment to sustainability and digital transformation shows they're thinking long term.
Right.
But of course, there are always challenges.
You're right. No business operates in a vacuum.
Exactly.
So what are some of the potential bumps in the road?
Yeah. What could go wrong? Well, the global economy is always a factor. We're seeing inflation, shifts in consumer spending, which could impact demand, especially in those price-sensitive markets.
Makes sense.
And then competition is fierce in the food industry.
Right.
So they'll need to keep innovating to stay ahead of the curve.
Stay ahead of the game.
And then operating in so many different countries obviously brings its own complexities, different regulations, cultural nuances. You really need to be adaptable.
It's a balancing act.
Yeah.
Managing growth, navigating global complexities, staying ahead of the curve.
Absolutely. But they seem to have a good head on their shoulders.
Yeah.
A clear strategy and the drive to succeed.
I agree. They've shown that they can adapt and make smart decisions.
Yeah.
Like their track record with acquisitions, for instance, suggests that they know how to seize opportunities and integrate them effectively.
Yeah, they're not just reacting.
Right.
They're proactively shaping their future.
It's been a fascinating deep dive. I feel like I've gained a real understanding of LT Foods.
Yeah.
Not just their numbers, but their vision,
Right.
their challenges, their commitment to doing things the right way.
Absolutely.
Before we wrap up completely, is there anything else that, investors or industry watchers should keep an eye on with LT Foods? What are the key factors that will determine their success in the coming years?
I think there are a few things I'd be watching closely.
Okay.
First, their ability to execute that diversification strategy.
Okay.
Can they really effectively integrate those new acquisitions, make those new segments, a core part of their business?
Yeah.
Second, how they perform in those international markets.
Okay.
Can they continue to grow their market share in those key regions like North America, Europe, the Middle East?
Right.
And finally, how well they adapt to those changing consumer preferences and technological advancement.
Oh, yes.
Can they stay ahead of the curve
Right.
and keep offering products that people actually want in ways that, meet their evolving needs?
I think those are all really great points to consider.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we'll be hearing a lot more about LT Foods in the years to come as they continue to evolve and expand.
Absolutely a company to watch.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into LT Foods.
Yeah.
I think we covered a lot of ground today.
We did.
From their financials to their global ambitions, from their diversification strategy to their commitment to sustainability and digital transformation.
It's been a pleasure exploring their journey.
We hope you found this deep dive insightful and informative.
Yeah.
And if you're interested in learning more, I encourage you to check out LT Foods' website and investor relations materials.
Definitely worth a look.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a company, a trend, or an idea that's shaping the world. Until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.